going on, everyone? Kurt Weidner here at my team animal training compound, and today I wanted to talk to you about some knees over toes stuff. Many of you probably are already familiar and maybe following along with a guy named, I believe his name is Ben Patrick. Honestly, for at least the first month, I just knew him as Knees Over Toes Guy. So he's got a YouTube channel, and how I came across him was several weeks ago when I was in Utah. I was sitting there going through my YouTube and looking at my subscriptions, and Mark Bell had this guy on, and he was talking about, overcoming issues with knees and how to basically make them bulletproof. And I started listening to a lot of what he was saying. A lot of it made sense, and so I've since started to incorporate it into my training. Kind of a little aside, in the fitness industry, we see all kinds of fads. We see people come and go. And a good rule of thumb as to, how much merit you should give somebody, look at who's paying attention to them. So, when this guy kind of arrives on my radar and I see somebody like Mark Bell talking to him, paying attention to him, and incorporating his stuff into his training, I'm like, well, maybe this is something that's worth looking at. Anyway, let's get into it. So, basically, a lot of what you've heard, one of those myths is that you shouldn't allow your knees to go over your toes. This is a dangerous position for your knees. Well, you think about athletics and everything you do as far as functionality, it's one of the most common positions that you're going to be in if you want to be able to do anything. And so really what you want to do is strengthen your knees in that position. So one of the most basic things that he talks about and that I've started incorporating in, and how I incorporate this in, is in my conditioning days. I start with backward sled walks, okay? So I actually have a belt on both ends of the sled, and you can see I don't have a real long lane. This building's 30 feet long. So I just go the full length and then full length back. Okay, and you can see positionally from the side that my knee is coming out past my toes, and that's the idea, okay? So, nice deep strides. For me, 5 times down and back, so 10 lengths is one set. I'll usually start with about 150 pounds on the sled, and I'll add weight every single set, and I'll work all the way up to 500 and 600 pounds on there before I move on to other things. Now, one of the other main exercises that he talks about that I've been incorporating in is, you can call it what you want, but I would call it a reverse step up. Basically, it's kind of the beginning of like a pistol squat, but you're standing on one leg and then lowering yourself to the ground. The important thing here is that you're doing so in a controlled fashion, okay? Controlled descent. Come down so that my heel touches the ground. I want to be able to stop and be able to almost pause that, okay? And so you might be at varying points as far as your ability to do this, successfully and without pain. You could start with like a 45-pound bumper and just get that movement down. If you're strong, you have good control, no pain, you can elevate it more, like what I just did. Then you could actually bring this out so that I even have further elevation, okay? And just as you would with anything else, make sure that you're bracing, you're treating it as you would using heavy weight. So don't allow your back to curl, stay nice and straight, neutral spine, brace, control. All right, so my left leg's pretty good. The right knee for me is the one that's been giving me issues, and also the right ankle is the one that I sprained about 4 weeks ago, so I don't have as much strength in that one. When I get down to a certain level right about there, I can start to feel it, although I'm warmed up because I did a workout earlier. Now, when you get to the point where you can do this with elevation and you have good control and no pain, then you can start using the slant board. So I built this slant board a few weeks ago basically to do knees over toes exercises. So then, you can kind of up it a little bit. I guess you would start without elevation. You can see because of the platform, this is elevated. But you would start, without elevation. single leg step down, nice and controlled, straight back, okay? Now you could progress up in a couple different ways. You could add elevation, you could actually add weight. I would say keep your reps high. You know, I usually do sets of 15 when I do this.
Kurt?
Yes.
What's the incline of the slant board?
Good
for those
question.
that might...
Yeah, so this is 30 degrees. Okay, that's a 30-degree slant board, which is pretty decent incline. You obviously could start with something less than that if you wanted to. I don't know, the bob may not be big enough to do this, but that's probably not as severe. It's probably more like 15 or 20 degrees. The other thing that you can do on here, which I like to do after I do my reverse step-ups, is just a slant board squat. Nice and straight, keep the shoulders up, okay? Controlled. And if you can do this, you know, for sets of 15 to 20 with no problem, then you can progress up and add some weight. You know, sometimes I'll do it with a kettlebell, sometimes I'll do it with a vest. I've actually done front squats with this before, but rack position. Okay, so slant board, very basic. You can build this yourself with basic plywood. If you don't have a sled, another way that you can get the same effective exercise would be to do a hill. And so one day I was walking the dogs. We have a giant hill that's several hundred yards long, about a 20-degree incline, and I walked backwards up the whole thing. Surprisingly, by the time you get halfway, you can actually start to feel the burn. But that's another way to get the same effective exercise.
Is there, I believe you mentioned that tempo for doing these is critical, like slow on the way down, control?
Yes, I think it's, so really the idea is to build strength in that range where some people might be feeling pain, and controlling the eccentric part of the movement, the part where you're actually going down, is extremely crucial to get the effect that you're looking for. You know, if you're doing a squat, let's say you're doing a heavy squat, I mean, you want to be able to lower yourself down into the hole under control. If you come down fast and bounce out, that's where you're going to end up doing damage to the knees. So control is, you know, incredibly essential. Somebody recently asked me about my hack squats and the fact that I go really low, even though, you know, I have knee pain. I actually don't feel any pain in my knees when I do these. And you can look at where I put my feet on this platform. I put my feet low, okay? But the thing is when I do a hack squat, I come down slow and control, and sometimes we'll even stop at the bottom. So you can see here, my knees are way out past my toes, okay? But I don't have pain here, and that's because I've strengthened up the muscles around my knees to be able to control in this range and then be able to drive out with power. Okay, so that's essentially what you want to do. Another exercise that is discussed, that he talks about, is doing like stretch lunges. And this is something that I've kind of always done. When I do any type of lunge, whether it's a lunge with weight on my shoulders, or I'm doing an overhead lunge with a bar or dumbbell, reach as far as I can with that front foot, stretch forward, and I want this back knee to come to the ground. So I'm getting a stretch in this hip flexor, okay? I'm getting this knee out past the toe, and I'm getting a stretch in the hamstring. Most importantly, before you come up from this position, you don't want to be leaning forward. You wouldn't want to be doing it in a squat. So you want to have the shoulders back, torso should be perpendicular to the ground. You're right here. Again, whether you're holding weight overhead, to the side, have a vest on, doesn't matter. Keep that upward position and be able to come up. Now, if your mobility is not that great, you may actually, the heel may be off the ground, but ideally you want to be able to get a stretch in the calf and Achilles, be able to bring your knee forward and not have that heel come off the ground and not have your torso shift forward. So right here, I'm getting a stretch position in a whole bunch of places. So it's a great mobility drill. I mean, lunges, step-ups, anything where you can get in that position are essential. But remember, with every part of what I'm doing, think about positioning of your total body. Okay, so where would you want to be if you were doing a squat or deadlift? Well, you don't want to be doing this, okay, because that's going to get you in trouble. You're going to get spinal compression with a lot of weight on it. So even if you're using barely any weight or no weight or body weight, you still want to practice the exercise the way you would if you had 500 pounds at your back, because it's just, it's good repetition to train your body, that positioning. So anyway, I hope this helps. These videos I'm putting out because they're, you know, I want to put out stuff that people find helpful. So please provide feedback. If you have questions, put them in the comments below. You know, I'll be happy to address those. And if there's other content that you'd like to see, let me know. Shoot me a message, put it in the comment, and I'll, you know, add it to my queue. Anyway, have a great week, everyone. Get after it.